They promised transparency. What followed was silence. This is not the story of one man. It's the story of a system designed to absorb damage and protect what matters. Agreements were signed, records were sealed, and when the truth emerged, it arrived incomplete. This is the architecture of protection, where exposure stops at the surface and power remains untouched. Today, we examine how wealth bought silence, how accountability was delayed, and why the full record still remains out of reach. Welcome to the Void Ledger. Jeffrey Edward Epstein, born January 20th, 1953, Brooklyn, New York. Working-class family, public school education. Attended Cooper Union, dropped out. Attended NYU Quran Institute, claims of a degree, no record of graduation. By 1973, he was teaching calculus and physics at Dalton School, an elite Manhattan preparatory academy. He had no teaching certification, no advanced degree, no documented expertise. The headmaster who hired him, Donald Barr, was later forced to resign. Among Epstein's students, the son of Alan Greenberg. Greenberg was the CEO of Bear Stearns. Within 2 years, Epstein was no longer teaching. He was on Wall Street. At Bear Stearns, Epstein worked in the options trading division. He left in 1981. The circumstances were never explained. Some reports suggested rule violations. Others suggested personal disputes. Bear Stearns has never clarified. By 1982, Epstein had founded J. Epstein and Company, a financial management firm. The clients, he claimed, were exclusively billionaires. The minimum investment, he claimed, was $1 billion. The list of clients was never disclosed. The returns were never verified. The operations were never transparent. But the wealth was visible. In 1987, Epstein met Leslie Wexner. Wexner was the founder and CEO of L brands like Victoria's Secret, Bath & Body Works, The Limited. Net worth, over $7 billion. Wexner gave Epstein power of attorney over his finances. Epstein received Wexner's Manhattan townhouse, the Herbert N. Strauss House, one of the largest private residences in New York, transferred for $0. Epstein received Wexner's private Boeing 727, transferred for minimal cost. Wexner later stated in a 2019 letter, "I was never aware of illegal activity." He also stated, "I cannot explain how significant sums of money disappeared." The relationship lasted over 2 decades. It ended only after Epstein's 2019 arrest. Here is what we know. Epstein had no verifiable expertise in finance. He had no public track record of successful investments. He had no disclosed client list. What he had was access to Wexner, to politicians, to academics, to celebrities. He did not build wealth through performance. He built it through proximity. And proximity, in systems of power, is the most valuable asset. Epstein operated from 4 primary locations. Each served a specific function. Location 1, Manhattan, 9 East 71st Street. The Herbert N. Strauss House, 50,000 square feet, 9 floors. Purchased from Leslie Wexner in 1996 for undisclosed terms. Interior features included a marble staircase imported from a French chateau, a mural of a prison scene, reportedly depicting Epstein himself, surveillance cameras in multiple rooms, including bathrooms. Staff rotated frequently, non-disclosure agreements were mandatory. Visitors included Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, Stephen Hawking, Ehud Barak. The mansion was not a residence. It was a theater. Location 2, Palm Beach, 358 El Brillo Way, a waterfront estate, gated, secluded. This was where the first criminal investigation began. In 2005, a 14-year-old girl told her parents she had been paid to give Epstein a massage. Police found a pattern. Girls were recruited from local high schools, offered $200 to $300, told to bring friends. The estate had multiple massage tables, photographs of nude women on the walls, A complex security system. Staff who operated under strict confidentiality agreements. This was not a home. It was a mechanism. Location 3, Little St. James. A 70-acre island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Purchased in 1998 for $7.95 million. Developed with a main compound, guest villas, a helipad, a private dock, surveillance infrastructure. Staff referred to it as Pedophile Island. Flight logs showed Epstein transported dozens of individuals to the island between 1998 and 2019. Among them, Bill Clinton, documented on flight logs 26 times, though not all to the island. Prince Andrew, photographed at the island in 2000. Naomi Campbell, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker. The island was not registered as a private residence. It was registered as a scientific research facility. For tax purposes. Location 4, Zorro Ranch, New Mexico. A 7,500-acre property near Stanley, New Mexico. Purchased in 1993. Developed with a main residence, guest houses, an airstrip, extensive security. Epstein reportedly planned to use the ranch as a site for seeding the human race with his DNA. He discussed this openly with scientists and journalists. The ranch had minimal activity compared to his other properties, but its existence served a purpose. Geographic diversification. Another space beyond oversight. Another location where privacy was absolute. Epstein's properties were not symbols of wealth. They were instruments of operation. Manhattan, visibility and legitimacy. Palm Beach, accessibility and recruitment. Little St. James, isolation and control. New Mexico, redundancy and experimentation. Each location minimized oversight. Each location maximized discretion. Together, they formed a system. March 2005. A woman contacted the Palm Beach Police Department. Her 14-year-old stepdaughter had been paid $300 for what was described as a massage at the home of Jeffrey Epstein. Detective Joseph Recarey was assigned to the case. He began investigating. He found others, dozens of girls. Most were minors. Most were from working-class families. They described a pattern, approached at school, offered money, taken to Epstein's mansion, told to remove clothing, told to perform massages. Some were touched. Some were told to bring friends. Those who brought others were paid more. The evidence. Detective Recarey spent 11 months investigating. He identified 36 potential victims. He obtained statements, testimonies, corroborations. He searched Epstein's residence. He found massage tables in multiple rooms, photographs of nude women, some appearing underage, contact information for hundreds of young women. He recommended felony charges. The Palm Beach police chief called it one of the most thorough investigations his department had ever conducted. The case was referred to the FBI. The FBI opened a federal investigation. 53 victims were eventually identified. The federal prosecutor was Alexander Acosta, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Epstein's defense team included Alan Dershowitz, Harvard Law professor, Kenneth Starr, former Whitewater Independent Counsel, Roy Black, high-profile criminal defense attorney, Jay Lefkowitz, former senior official in the George W. Bush administration. They negotiated for 18 months. In 2008, a deal was reached. Epstein pled guilty to 2 state charges: solicitation of prostitution from a minor, procuring a minor for prostitution. He was sentenced to 18 months in county jail. He served 13. He was granted work release 6 days a week. He left the facility daily. The federal investigation was closed. The victims were not notified. This violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act. The non-prosecution agreement was kept sealed. Why it mattered? This was not a failure of evidence. The evidence was overwhelming. This was not a failure of jurisdiction. Federal prosecutors had authority. This was a deliberate choice. Acosta later stated, in 2019, after resigning as U.S. Secretary of Labor, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. He did not specify which intelligence agency. He did not provide documentation, but the statement was clear. Epstein had protection, and that protection superseded the law. 1996. Reports of young women at Epstein's properties. No action taken. 2005. Palm Beach police investigation. 36 victims identified. 2006. Case referred to FBI. Federal investigation opened. 2007. Plea negotiations began. 2008. Non-prosecution agreement finalized. Epstein serves 13 months. 2011. Victims file lawsuits challenging the legality of the plea deal. 2015. Virginia Jeffrey goes public. Names Prince Andrew. 2016. Jeffrey settles with Maxwell. 2018. Miami Herald publishes investigation. Public outcry intensifies. 2019. Epstein arrested. Dies in custody. The question, why 14 years? Between the first investigation and the first arrest. Not because the facts changed, because the cost of acting finally became lower than the cost of ignoring. January 2024. A federal judge ordered the release of documents. Part of Virginia Jeffrey's defamation lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell. Over 900 pages. Depositions, emails, flight logs, testimony. Names appeared. Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Jean-Luc Brunel, Glenn Dubin, Alan Dershowitz. The documents did not prove all allegations, but they confirmed proximity. And in cases of power, proximity is evidence. Throughout 2024 and 2025, more releases followed. Maxwell's trial evidence. Civil case unsealing. Bipartisan congressional pressure. Then, in December 2025, the Epstein Transparency Act was signed into law. It mandated the release of all FBI documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Thousands of pages. The Department of Justice complied. Mid-December 2025, congressional committees released materials from Epstein's estate. Photographs, evidence inventories, property records. The images showed Epstein with Bill Clinton. Multiple locations. Multiple years. Epstein with Prince Andrew. Inside the Manhattan Mansion. At Little St. James. Epstein with Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister, entering through a side entrance. Epstein with scientists, academics, billionaires. Interior shots of the properties. The surveillance equipment. The massage rooms. Lists of items seized. CDs labeled with names. Hard drives never fully examined. The photographs were not new to investigators, but they were new to the public. They had been sitting in evidence lockers since 2019. The redactions. The releases were heavily redacted. Names blacked out. Sections withheld under national security and privacy exemptions. The client list was never released. Flight logs showed destinations, not activities. Financial records showed transfers, not recipients. The DOJ stated, ongoing investigations preclude full disclosure. 6 years after Epstein's death, the public was given enough to confirm what they suspected, but not enough to demand accountability. The pattern, what the documents showed, the photographs confirmed. Epstein was not isolated. He was integrated into finance, into academia, into politics, into culture. The system did not hide him. It absorbed him. And when he died, it released just enough to satisfy curiosity, but not enough to threaten stability. Why was Jeffrey Epstein protected? Not by conspiracy, by incentive. Incentive 1, mutual exposure. Epstein's network was not built on loyalty. It was built on association. If you flew on his plane, you were logged. If you attended his events, you were photographed. If you accepted his funding, you were linked. A trial would mean subpoenas. Subpoenas would mean testimony. Testimony would mean names. Names would mean exposure, not just for Epstein, for everyone. Incentive 2, institutional reputation. Harvard, MIT, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, L Brands. These institutions accepted Epstein's money. Some after his 2008 conviction. A full investigation would require them to explain why. Why due diligence failed? Why ethics committees approved? Why warnings were ignored? The cost of that explanation was higher than the cost of silence. Incentive 3, legal complexity. Epstein's legal team was exceptional. They did not deny the evidence. They complicated it. They argued jurisdiction, statute of limitations, procedural technicalities. They turned a criminal case into a negotiation. And in negotiations, power wins. Incentive 4, victim credibility. Many of the victims were minors. Many came from working-class backgrounds. Many accepted money. The defense strategy was simple: reframe victims as participants. If they were paid, they chose to be there. This was not true, but it was persuasive, especially to juries, to judges, to prosecutors weighing conviction rates. The victims were not believed because they were not valuable. And in systems that run on value, credibility is a currency. Incentive 5, national security. Acosta's 2019 statement, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence." This was never confirmed, but it was never denied. And in December 2025, when documents were released, significant portions were redacted under national security exemptions. Not because of what Epstein did, but because of who he knew and what they might have discussed. The system. This is how protection works in modern power structures. Not through conspiracy, through alignment. No one needs to coordinate. They just need to choose the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is always inaction, because acting requires courage, resources, time, exposure. And institutions are not designed for courage. They are designed for efficiency, and efficiency always favors silence. How did Epstein operate for decades without consequence? Through a 4-step mechanism. Step 1, accumulate access. Epstein did not start powerful. He started proximate. From Dalton, to Bear Stearns, to Wexner. Each step was not about competence. It was about connection. He was hired not for what he knew, but for who he could reach. Step 2, provide value. Once inside, Epstein made himself necessary. He hosted events. He made introductions. He facilitated deals. He flew people on his plane. He offered use of his properties. He funded research. He donated to institutions. He did not need to be the smartest person in the room. He needed to be the most useful. Step 3, document everything. Epstein kept records, flight logs, photographs, videos. His properties were equipped with surveillance. His staff were required to maintain logs. This was not paranoia. This was insurance. If everyone is documented, no one can act, because acting means exposure, and exposure means mutually assured destruction. Step 4, exploit structural inertia. Institutions do not investigate themselves. They manage risk. Prosecuting Epstein was high risk, high cost, high exposure, high complexity. Ignoring him was low risk. Until 2019, when the Miami Herald investigation and victim advocacy made inaction more expensive than action. The formula. This is how immunity operates. Access, value, documentation, inertia equals invulnerability. Until the cost of inaction exceeds the cost of acting. That is when the system moves. Not because it wants to, because it has to. Epstein was arrested, charged with sex trafficking, denied bail, held in federal custody for 35 days. August 10, 2019, death. Found unresponsive at 6:30 a.m. Pronounced dead at 7:36 a.m. Official cause, suicide by hanging. Circumstances, suicide watch removed 12 days prior. Cellmate transferred the night before. Guards asleep. Records falsified. Cameras malfunctioned. The FBI investigated. The DOJ Inspector General reviewed. Conclusion: negligence, not conspiracy. But negligence at this scale raises its own questions. What happened next? Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested in July 2020, convicted in December 2021, sentenced to 20 years. Jean-Luc Brunel was arrested in December 2020, found dead in his cell in February 2022, ruled a suicide. Sarah Kellen, Nada Marcinkova, Leslie Groff, associates named in testimony, never charged. Prince Andrew settled with Virginia Giuffre in February 2022, amount undisclosed. No admission of liability. He was stripped of military titles and royal patronages. Alan Dershowitz sued Virginia Giuffre for defamation. Case settled in 2022. Terms undisclosed. Leon Black paid $62.5 million to settle a lawsuit with the U.S. Virgin Islands. No admission of wrongdoing. J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank paid settlements totaling $365 million. No executives were charged. In January 2024, court-ordered unsealing began. Names appeared. Connections confirmed. Throughout 2024, pressure mounted. Victims' advocates. Bipartisan congressional committees. Public demand. In December 2025, the Epstein Transparency Act took effect. The FBI released thousands of pages. Photographs emerged from evidence storage. Epstein with world leaders, with billionaires, with academics, inside his properties, at his events, over decades. But the client list remained sealed. The financial records remained redacted. The surveillance footage was never recovered. The releases answered some questions. Who was in his network? Confirmed. Where did he operate? Documented. When did authorities know? Early and often. But they did not answer. Who paid him? Unknown. What did he provide in exchange? Unclear. Who else should be charged? Undetermined. The system released enough to appear transparent. Not enough to be accountable. In mid-December 2025, the public finally saw the photographs. Epstein with presidents, with princes, with power. The images confirmed what the documents suggested. That Jeffrey Epstein was not an outlier. He was a symptom of a system where power insulates itself through complexity, where accountability is negotiable, where justice is a function of cost. The photographs showed faces, but they were released with redactions. Names blacked out, sections withheld, context removed. The system gave the public just enough to satisfy, not enough to demand change. Epstein built a network, not of conspirators, but of participants, people who attended, who accepted, who ignored, not because they were evil, but because they were complicit. And complicity, in systems of power, is not a crime. It is a feature. The case is closed. The trials are over. The settlements are paid. The documents are released. With redactions. The photographs are public, with names removed. The system has spoken. This is as much transparency as power allows.